Welcome to John Redmann, Power of Attorney. Our show today is an election special where we will interview candidates running for various positions for the December 5th runoff election that is quickly approaching. It's been quite an election season, but it's not over yet. Today, our guests are candidates for the New Orleans District Attorney runoff, as well as the New Orleans Criminal Court Section K runoff. We encourage everyone to get out there and vote for the candidate they believe will be the best fit for our city. We also want to remind everyone to be safe when they go out and vote, and be mindful and courteous of our current COVID guidelines. Always check your local news and trusted sources for updates regarding voting guidelines. After this short break, we will be back to interview Judge Keva Landrum and Councilman Jason Williams, the candidates running for District Attorney. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We will now be interviewing the candidates running for District Attorney. In addition to their primary duty of prosecuting criminal suspects from arrest through trials, the DA's office is also responsible for much more beyond that. This includes dealing with cases after the trials are in the appeals process. They handle things like enforcing child support, diversion programs, investigations, juvenile restorative justice, and victim witness services. Before the show, we determined by coin toss the order in which our guests will appear on the show. That being said, I have the honor of introducing our first guest, Judge Keva Landrum. Judge Keva Landrum is a proud native of New Orleans. Judge Landrum graduated from Ursuline Academy and continues to receive her bachelor's degree in political science from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. Judge Landrum came back to New Orleans to earn her Juris Doctorate from Tulane Law School in 1997. She then began her legal career in the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office and ultimately rose to become the first district attorney, the acting district attorney in 2007. And she made history as the first female district attorney for the state of Louisiana. Then in January 2018, she was appointed chief judge at Orleans Parish Criminal District Court, and again made history as the first African-American woman to serve in the court's highest office. Judge Landrum, thank you for joining us today on the John Redmann Power of Attorney show.
Thank you, John, so much for having me today.
Well, it's our pleasure. Well, we don't have a lot of time, but we do have a bunch of questions, so how about we get right to it?
Sure.
Okay. First question, in your own words, what does it mean to you to run for this position, and what is the impact that you hope to have in this seat?
Well, you know, this is so important to me. We are at a critical time, not just in our nation, but in our city, where citizens throughout our country are calling for our district attorney's offices to act with fairness and integrity and transparency and accountability to the communities that they serve. And so to me, that means that we need to have someone that is going to rise up to that challenge. And when I think about that, you know, I am ready and prepared to do that work so that we can connect with the citizens of New Orleans.
Next question. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing the position of district attorney in the city of New Orleans today?
You know, it's hard to prioritize what is the most pressing, but because we have so many serious issues that are going to confront the office. I think the first thing is to make sure that we build a relationship of trust between the office and the citizens of New Orleans, but also making sure that we implement the reform that is needed in that office, and making sure that we also prioritize public safety for the citizens of New Orleans. And so it is going to be walking into the office, making sure that we reform the things that need to be reformed. There are some policies and procedures that we have to make sure that we change in order for this office to be effective. There are things that we have to make sure that we prioritize, such as violent crime and crimes against women. And then we're going to have to also combat the stall that has occurred because of this pandemic. And so it means working with our court system and our judges to make sure they understand our vision so that we can get this criminal justice system moving forward.
Thank you. Next question. What do you believe is important for the voters out there to understand that distinguishes you from your opponent in this race, in this runoff race?
You know, I think there are some very clear differences from me and my opponent. The first one is, I think that it is my experience that I bring to this job. I have the unique experience of having served as a prosecutor. And while many people want to discount that experience, what I bring to the table as a former prosecutor is that I have worked with victims and with women who have been abused, with families who've experienced violent crime. And my opponent has spent his entire career as a defense attorney dismantling their stories and their experiences. Also, as our former and acting district attorney, I had the opportunity to step in during a time where that office experienced some of the most critical times where the office was in a really bad time. And I had the opportunity to stand up and help stabilize the office. So I understand what it takes to bring that office forward. As a judge in criminal district court, I also have formed partnerships with all of our criminal justice agencies, making sure that we move the court forward on reform efforts. As the chief judge, I brought forward the very first ever pretrial services program. I also instituted the first ever bail reform, so we ensured that poor people didn't remain in jail simply because they were poor, and making sure that we looked at our jail population so that we could prioritize violent crime and violent offenders. And so that is the type of work that we need to do as our next district attorney, and I have the experience and the skills necessary to do exactly what we need to do in the office.
Thank you for explaining that. Next, what do you think is the single most important thing that the district attorney should determine in order to carry out these initiatives?
So, I think that discretion is the key. Right? As the district attorney, the discretion that you use in how you implement policies and procedures in the office. And so it is going to be making sure that you implement and utilize that discretion to make sure that you're fair, that the policies and procedures have integrity, transparency, and that you're held accountable in everything that we do, in how we accept cases, and how we train the attorneys, and how we try cases, and how we communicate with our community and victims and witnesses. So essentially to me, it is about the discretion as the district attorney and making sure you use that to promote the fairest policies and procedures, and you promote public safety for our citizens.
Thank you. Next question. As a serious leadership role in the community, what is your vision as district attorney for the relationship between the criminal court and the district attorney, and also between the district attorney and the citizens of the city of New Orleans?
Well, I want to start with the citizens first, because I think that that is the most important relationship that the district attorney's office needs to rebuild. And the relationship between the citizens of New Orleans and the district attorney's office has to be one built on trust and openness. And that means not just for our community, but it means for anyone that is accused of crime. That means anyone that has been a victim of crime. We have got to have a relationship where people believe in the work that we do. And so that means treating everyone fairly. That means that if you're a victim of crime, building a relationship where you can voluntarily come forward and feel that you're not being forced to come forward. If you have been accused of a crime, knowing that the work that the police department has been done fairly and honestly, and that the work that we do gives you an opportunity that seeks alternatives to not just being placed in jail. And so that the community understands that everything we're doing is for the benefit of us as a community in total. Now, as it pertains to the criminal district court and the relationship between the office, that is going to be having an open line of communication, that the judges in criminal district court understand that our main priority is going to be prioritizing violent crime and moving those cases through the system. And so we are going to work with the court, have them understand that, and hopefully they can work with us to push that forward.
And let me add as a follow-up question, the relationship between the district attorney's office and the defense bar, those lawyers who are representing people accused of crimes. Can you comment on that, please?
Well, there should always be an open line of communication with the district attorneys and the defense bar. You know, listen, although the system itself is adversarial, the relationships should not be. Because what it is going to take is making sure that we have open file discovery. So that means that defense attorneys are entitled to the information contained within the prosecution's file. And so we are going to open our files and give them information, all of the information contained within it. Listen, this system is supposed to work where it is fair to both sides. And so defense attorneys should have equal opportunities, should have equal access to be able to defend their clients fairly and, you know, at that same rate. And so although the system is set up as an adversarial system, the relationship between both sides does not have to be. And so we are going to ensure that it is not an adversarial relationship, but a fair one, so that both sides can advocate the same way.
Thank you for explaining that. Next question. As a district attorney, you've mentioned the word discretion. And for those people out there who haven't maybe gone to law school, in the context of a district attorney or a judge or even as a defense lawyer, the word discretion, how do you explain what that means? In plain English for everyone, please.
So discretion means that the district attorney has options available in how to handle cases, how to charge cases, and how to resolve cases. And so that means that those options stem from how you deal with cases from the very beginning, meaning not everyone has to be prosecuted. It is going to be my platform and what I plan to do, and hopefully we have the resources to really build this out, is we want to expand our diversion program. And so that means for people who are, you know, accused of low-level nonviolent offenses, even if you have a criminal history, we want to be able to dig a little deeper and see what is the root cause of that activity. And if it stems from substance abuse, mental health issues, a lack of opportunity, be it jobs, housing, education, that we start providing you with the support that you need to address those issues and divert you outside of the criminal justice system and give you options so that we can start treating those issues. And hopefully, people do not come back into the criminal justice system. So traditionally in the past, we have just prosecuted people and not connected them with the services and support that they need to divert them outside of the system. And so it is going to be my hope that we try a new approach where we start supporting people so that we can keep them outside of the system. And so it is that type of discretion that as our district attorney, I choose to use so that we can support families and support people.
And we don't have much time here, but to make sure I've understood what you said, the district attorney does have the legal authority to say, you know what, some of these crimes, if we get them maybe some counseling, some assistance, maybe they can get treatments for a drug addiction that will get them out of the criminal prosecution complex. Instead of filling up jails with people who maybe don't need to be in jail, they can get help and maybe start becoming hardworking, tax-paying citizens again.
Well, and that is absolutely it. And then when we do that and we divert our attention and divert those cases outside of the system, then we can focus truly on the public safety measures and those violent crime cases. And that way it helps all of us. It's a win-win for the entire community.
Okay. Now, we invited WGNO's reporter Peyton LaCicero to participate in this, and she provided a question. And her question for you is, if you were to win the district attorney's race, what's the first change or the most significant change you'd want to make to this system if the voters were to elect you to the system? And what would that change be?
So, you know, I don't know what the most important, but there are several changes that I'd make immediately. And those would be, number one, making sure that we did not prosecute simple possession or possession of marijuana cases. The second would be making sure that we did away with the use of the habitual offender law. And finally, making sure that we decided and we treat our children as children, and make sure that we treat those cases in juvenile court and that we do not hold them in adult jails. And so those would be policies that went into place immediately. And so none of them is more important than another, so I can't rate them. They all, to me, are extremely important so that we can achieve what we need to achieve by being able to address public safety and being able to prioritize violent crime. So those would go into effect immediately. They all are equally as important to me and to making sure that we can move the office in the direction that we need to go.
Thank you. All right, now we're just about out of time, but we've saved a little bit of time so you can tell the viewers your ballot number and where they can find more information about you and your platform.
Thank you so much, and this was a great opportunity to be able to discuss with everyone. I am Keva Landrum. I am number 102 on the ballot, and more information can be found at www.kevalandrum.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Judge Landrum, thank you for being here. I believe our viewers got a good chance to get to know more about you. After a brief pause, we will be joined by Jason Williams, Councilman Jason Williams, who is also running for the position of District Attorney. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We are now joined by Councilman Jason Williams. Councilman Williams was born right here in New Orleans. He spent much of his childhood in Georgia and decided to return home to attend Tulane University for his undergraduate and then Juris Doctor. Motivated by his experiences representing indigent defendants in law school, he soon started his own law practice focused on criminal defense. Councilman Williams served as a judge in Orleans Criminal District Court, making him the youngest assistant district attorney in the city's history. Welcome to the show, Jason, Mr. Williams. Let's get right to it, okay?
Good to be with you, John.
All right. So, first of all, in your own words, what does it mean to you to run for this position? And what is the impact that you hope to have in this seat if elected as DA?
I think it's time for the American legal system and the legal system in New Orleans to pivot from a culture that seeks victories for prosecutors to one that seeks victories for victims, making sure that every decision that's made, whether it be for a misdemeanor or a felony, the question needs to be asked, is the public safer for what we did today? And that's the change in culture I want to bring.
Thank you. Next question. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing the position of district attorney, perhaps beyond what you've just said?
The most pressing issue really comes down to something that is more broad and covers a lot of areas, which is trust. There's a huge amount of distrust of the criminal legal system. Although folks who become police officers and become prosecutors, they do it because they want to serve their communities. Because of some of the leadership choices, because of some of the process and some of the cases that have been had, the trust has been broken. So I want to create a conviction integrity unit that's going to look back and confront the sins of the past. If a person's been wrongfully convicted, we want to correct that. We want to look at those Ramos cases as well, but also want to increase transparency and have public-facing dashboards so that the public can grade my paper every single day using their computer to see who was charged, who was not charged, what was diverted, what was the final resolution, how long it took, not every 6 years, but every single day. And that level of transparency, I believe, can really bring us back to a place where people believe in the system and believe in their DA.
Next question. What do you believe is important for the voters to understand that distinguishes you from your counterpart in this election?
You know, at the end of the day, it depends upon your orientation into the system. If you believe that prosecuting more people, giving them maximum sentences in every single field of crime, if that is success, then you need to vote for my opponent. But if you believe that you want a DA that's going to prioritize on violent crime, murder, rape, armed robbery, and the other things like addiction, mental health crises. We're going to divert those things and get people the intervention services they need. In 2008, my opponent served as DA, and violent crime was spiking, and a number of simple possession of marijuana cases, based on a City Business article, were upcharged to make it appear as if the office was succeeding based upon number of convictions. That's not my brand of public safety. That's not my brand of criminal justice. I want to focus on what matters most, and I also want to make sure that we do it fairly. Make sure Brady is turned over so that we're not paying $500,000 each year to the wrongfully convicted, to make sure the convictions stand up. And that, I think that's what separates me most, that orientation, knowing that these decisions affect lives, but also affect taxpayer dollars. Because the budget, I see it every year. We just finished the budget of the City Council. It costs us $2.75 million just to staff one 40-person pod at the current jail. And there's a number of people sitting there just because they can't afford bond, not because they're violent, not because they're unsafe.
What I'd like for you to do, and one of the things we try to do on this show, all the different shows about all different areas of law, when it's not an election special, is help Joe Blow, Susie Q out there, who is not a lawyer, understand some of the areas of law that they don't, hopefully they don't have to get exposed to. You mentioned something about diversion.
Yes.
A lot of people, they don't know what that means. Explain what you mean, especially when it relates to prosecuting crimes.
Thank you for that, John. So, police officers make a case. They refer that case to the DA's office. The DA's office then has the discretion, or rather the choice, to decide what happens with that case next. The current DA is taking 90% of those cases and pushing them to court. What I want to do is take those cases.
They push them to court. You mean they're going to prosecute the guy that was arrested and charged with whatever?
They're going to prosecute. There's going to be motion hearings. It's all going to happen in court with defense attorneys and public defenders and ADAs, and it clogs up the court's docket. What I want to do is take those low-level, non-violent offenses. Somebody's got a simple possession of a drug. Someone is in the throes of a mental health crisis. I want to put that in a diversion program that it will be housed inside of my office, not in court, right? So these folks will have to come back and forth to South White Street to either attend Narcotics Anonymous or Alcohol Anonymous, or anger management, or get intervention services from therapists and social workers, and also do community service, and also pay for those programs themselves, so that programs like Son of a Saint, Youth Empowerment Project, these folks can help us in the criminal legal system, and it also allows us to focus on the more serious cases in court. So let's say if 30 to 40% of those cases are in my diversion program, that means the ADAs that are in court every single day of the week have more time to focus and prepare those trials for the murder cases, the rape cases, the armed robbery cases, and have more success there.
And just to take another moment of time for this, is this under some supervision of judges, or is it something that you and your office says we'll handle it, and then we'll come to the courts if they fail to follow everything you're saying?
It's the second thing you described. The current program is under the auspices of the judges, which still ties up their docket and ties up the ADAs and defense attorneys. What I propose to do is have the carrot and the stick. The carrot is, if you do all of these things to make yourself better, to improve your position and create more purpose in your life, then you don't ever go to court. But the stick is, court's waiting for you, those judges are waiting for you, and you will absolutely go to court if you do not participate and do all the things that are necessary for you.
Do you need any legislative changes in order to enact that, or do you believe it's already within your power?
That power and that discretion already rests within the DA's office. Some DA's offices throughout the state are already doing it. In fact, I want to make it clear, this is not Jason Williams making up or cracking the code. I'm copying the paper of some of the most successful DAs in other parishes and other cities.
Okay. Thank you for explaining all that. Next question. As a serious leadership role in the community, which DA, I think everybody agrees is, what is your vision as DA for the relationship between the criminal court and the district attorney's office, and the criminal court and the citizens, and those being prosecuted, and the victims?
First and foremost, I think that the people of the city need to have a direct line to the DA. They shouldn't have to go through someone to get to the DA. And so I'm going to get outside of court and outside of South White Street and get in schools and get in communities and also get in the immigrant community as well. There's a number of people who are preyed upon because of immigration status, and they don't report crimes because they're afraid of being deported. I'm working with Congresso and Our Voice Knows the Road to make sure that we create relationships, and there's going to be a policy of never asking about immigration status to make sure that folks know if I come forward, I'm going to be protected and I'm not going to get pulled away from my family. Because when they're not safe, none of us are safe because the perpetrators are left to reoffend. So the first part is real community engagement. The other part is judges meet en banc ever so often, and I'm going to ask to go to those meetings and participate so we can figure out what we can do better and grade our paper from the previous quarter. Also, I want to create an advisory board for the DA made up of criminal justice stakeholders to advise us on whether or not we are seeing the picture clearly in terms of when maybe crimes are spiking. Right now we have a lot of car burglaries. So I want to create a comprehensive strategy with the police chief, hopefully bring the sheriff into the mix, use all of our resources so that our response time to car burglaries is such that we can catch those folks while they're still smashing windows and actually eradicate that.
Quickly, you mentioned with the immigrant community, so they're not afraid to come forward. I want to be clear. I believe I understand you, but I want to be clear. The point is clear to everyone. There are immigrants out there who maybe they don't have their legal status very clear. They are, in the past, by coming forward and saying, I witnessed a rape, I witnessed a murder, I witnessed some terrible crime, they got in trouble because they were asked, well, are you here legally? Exactly. And then they got grabbed and sent over to the federal eviction authorities.
Exactly right.
And they got taken away from spouses and children, and an awful nightmare ensued because they were trying to speak up for a neighbor, or they were trying to be good Samaritans.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there's laws on the books that can help law enforcement protect immigrants when they are participating to bring a prosecution forward. And we've never used those, and I want to make sure we do.
Okay. Next question. Can you point to a moment in your professional career as an attorney, as a judge, where you believed you had to make a decision, maybe a decision that was going to impact the life of another? Maybe it was a crossroads, and you believe this might help people understand better who you are, and for all the decisions you have to make as a DA, if given that privilege to serve. Some example you can share.
There was a young man I was representing. His name was Bobby Washington. And Bobby Washington was charged with a crime. And the day of his trial, the assistant DA came in and said, we're going to give you credit for time served. And Bobby Washington had been in jail for almost a year. And he said, I can't take that deal. And I said, what do you mean you can't take the deal? You go home today. You're facing a lot of time. He said, yes, but I'd be lying. I'd be saying I did something horrible that I did not do, and I just can't do it. I said, Bobby, you're going home today. You would have already served the time. Who cares what people say about you? He said, I care. And so we went forward with trial, and it turned that the witness actually said on the stand that she had actually lied about what happened. The truth came out. He was exonerated. But far too many times, what's going on at Tulane and Broad is someone is scared about the penalty, and they plead guilty to things they didn't do. And so we have to make sure that as we work through this process of being safe, that we're not violating people's rights and cutting their rights short simply under the guise of public safety. It's important to make sure that the system is fair every single step of the way. And that, having that information come out after 5 days of trial was very eye-opening for me, because I thought he made the wrong decision by going to trial until that evidence presented itself. We didn't know it was going to come out.
And just to quickly follow up, as someone who is very familiar with how imperfect any system of justice is, including right there on Broad Street, you know that innocent people who go and take their chances, they can end up in jail for quite a long time, and you in your heart know they're innocent. Juries can convict because they're wrongfully accused, or an overzealous district attorney's office wants to get a conviction on the books, right?
So the power of that office, that's what you're speaking to, and that's why the most powerful law enforcement agency in the city has to be really laser focused on making sure that, regardless of the crime, that the rights are protected each step of the way. All due process is there, all constitutional rights are there, because the power is so strong that an innocent person's rights could be lost and are lost on a regular basis.
We have time for one more question. This is a very important discussion. I wish we had a lot more time. But reporter Peyton Locicero from WGNO, we invited her to join us in the conversation, and she asked this question. What is, if you were to win the DA's race, what's the first change or the most significant change you'd want to make to the system?
The first change would be a written policy paper defining what success is for all ADAs, right?
And an ADA for everybody
is an assistant district attorney. That's the folks who represent them and me in court in all 12 sections of court. And I'm going to have a written policy paper that writes down what is expected of them, what they are accountable for, and reminding them of their oath and letting them know that they're going to be held accountable. Because that's the only way to change the culture of the office. Changing the person at the top oftentimes does nothing for the rest of the institution. And that written policy paper is going to be a constant reminder of their obligation to the people, but also to their obligation of the rule of law.
Okay, now we do have time for one little, an easy question, and that is, why don't you let the viewers know what your ballot number is, and if you want to take 15 seconds to just make your closing remark.
Sure. My ballot number is 104, 10-4. When I was a little kid, we used to talk about onto those walkie-talkies, 10-4, good buddy. It's easy to remember. And my last pitch to the voters is simply this. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change this system, to make it fair for everyone, but reform it as well, and that is going to achieve public safety. My opponent believes that public safety and criminal justice reform are antithetical, that they don't go hand in hand. I believe we never really get to real public safety until we engage in criminal justice reform that makes sure that your rights are protected, whether you live next to Audubon Park or Joe Brown Park.
Well, thank you, and I'm afraid that that's all the time we have left for this segment. Thank you, Mr. Jason Williams. We wish you all the best of luck. Everyone, please stay tuned for our next segment, where we will be interviewing the remaining candidate for the district attorneys. Oh, actually, no, next segment is actually Criminal District Court Section K candidate. So thank you so much for being here. Everyone, stay tuned.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Our next runoff race is for Criminal District Court, Section K. This runoff is between Stephanie Bridges and Marcus DeLarge. I would like to welcome our first candidate, Mr. Marcus DeLarge. Marcus DeLarge is a graduate of St. Augustine High School and Xavier University. He attended and received his Juris Doctorate from Southern University Law Center in 2011. After graduating from law school, Mr. DeLarge began to pursue his passion for criminal law, serving as an Orleans Parish Assistant District Attorney. Following his tenure at the District Attorney's Office, Marcus returned to his alma mater, St. Augustine High School, and there he served as Director of Athletics and Activities, working to build the criminal defense firm DeLarge Law and Associates. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Well, thank you so much. So we're short on time. We're going to get right to the questions.
Sure.
First one, in your own words, what does it mean to you to run for this position? And what is the impact that you expect to have if elected to this seat?
Let me begin by just telling you that the impetus for me running is simply to serve. It's simply to help. You're looking at an individual who's literally devoted his life to serving this community in different capacities, and I just want to continue that service from the bench, Criminal District Court, Section K.
Great. Next question. What do you think is the single most important duty that the criminal court should fulfill for our city and the people who live in it?
So criminal court, any judge, they have to balance a couple of things. One is public safety, and the other one is helping the citizens of this city. And I think that, as you stated, I was a prosecutor, and now I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I have experience on both sides of the aisle, so I'm best positioned to make those decisions on who should get a second or a third chance and those that pose a danger to our community.
What sets you apart from your opponent in this runoff? What difference do you think that the voters need to understand about you versus your opponent?
And look, I think that's a great question, Mr. Redmann, and I'm going to speak directly to the voters when I answer this. Experience matters. You're looking at an individual that has devoted his entire legal career to criminal law, either as a prosecutor or a defense attorney. I have tried over 30 criminal trials, jury trials that is. I've tried a case in every section of criminal district court. In 2019, I tried more cases than any other attorney in Orleans Parish at Tulane and Broad, and simply my opponent doesn't have that experience. In fact, she doesn't have any jury trials. She's not a practitioner of criminal law, and I am. So you ask what's the most important factor? It's experience. I have real experience, and I'm the right choice for this position.
Thank you for that answer and that explanation. Next question. What is your vision for the future of criminal court in New Orleans? And what changes, if any, would you advocate for that future, and why?
So one of the things that I've noticed in criminal court and what we have at Tulane and Broad versus other courts throughout this state is the lack of technology. So you ask what I want to bring, what do I want to change? We definitely need to make some advances in technology in criminal district court, but I also want to take our specialty courts, that's your drug court, your mental health court, even your reentry court, and I want to take it a step further, and I want to get a robust mentorship program. You said that I went to St. Aug, and one of the things that St. Aug does really well is they surround young people with positive people, and that positivity is the difference in their lives. So I want to bring that to criminal district court, where anybody that comes in front of my court, you're going to get 2 to 3 mentors that can get you on track and keep you on track. And the goal is for then you to become a mentor to the next person. So I definitely want to bring that mentorship to criminal district court, in addition to making the advances in technology that I think we need.
Very good. Someone as a judge, we always say they should have the wisdom of Solomon. And so along those lines, as perhaps to help others understand perhaps about your own wisdom, your own ability to handle tough situations, can you think of and tell us about a moment in your career where you had to make a tough decision as an attorney, perhaps outside of your professional career, that impacted your life or the life of someone else?
So I've tried a lot of cases in my career, and one of the cases that I tried was a former student of mine. And it was a self-defense case, and it was a testing trial. It was challenging because any self-defense case, you're admitting that your client did something, but there's a justification for it. So that one case in particular, it meant a lot to me because I taught this young man, and this young man his life was literally in my hands. So I took great care of that case. I paid special attention to detail in that case, and ultimately the jury did reach a verdict in favor of my client in that case.
Okay. We're starting to run short on time here, but with in the next minute or so, what would you like to share with the voters that we haven't already covered that you think what would you like to share with the voters that you think would be helpful to them to know about you in making a decision to vote for you in this election?
Sure. I would tell the voters again that I am a servant of this community. I've been serving this community in different capacities as teacher, as mentor, as coach, as attorney. And one of my greatest joys is obviously being a husband to my wife and a father to my two kids. And I just ask that you do your research in this race, evaluate the candidates, and you make the decision based on your own thoughts, based on your own independent research of both me and my opponent. And I believe that after you do that research, you're going to come to the clear conclusion that this young man has the experience, he has the temperament, and he has the desire to serve the community. And I'm best positioned for this position. Marcus DeLarge, Criminal District Court, Section K, number 94 on your ballot.
Now we're just about out of time, but in the 30 seconds or so we have left, I would like you to remind our voters where they can find more information about you. Maybe you have a platform or website, and tell them one more time your ballot number.
Ballot number is 94. My website is DeLarge for Judge, DeLargeforjudge.com.
All right. Well, I am afraid that we have run out of time. I wish we had more time to ask more questions, but thank you so much for being here with us. It's great to get to know more about you. Let the voters learn as much as they can before December 5th, and voting is going on right now, the early voting. We will be right back after this. Please stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. We will now be interviewing attorney Stephanie Bridges. Attorney Bridges first received her bachelor's degree from the University of New Orleans in 1984. She went on to claim her graduate degree in communications from Washington University in 1989, and then went on to pursue her Juris Doctorate at Loyola Law School, graduating in 2006. For over 13 years, she has practiced law in both criminal and civil district courts in multiple parishes at both the trial and appellate level. She has worked as an assistant city attorney for the city of New Orleans, where she was for 4 years. Notably, she is also the president of the New Orleans Council for Community and Justice, which offers programs and services for cultural diversity and inclusion to youth, schools, organizations, corporations, and teachers in the greater New Orleans area. Attorney Bridges, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be sitting with you today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, we don't have a lot of time, so let's get right to our questions, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. First question, in your own words, what does it mean to you to run for this position, and what is the impact that you expect to have if given the privilege of serving in this seat?
Well, that's a very good question. And I think it goes back to my life history. I worked for the New Orleans Council for Community and Justice, founded as the National Conference, of Christians and Jews, and was working there for a long period of time, servicing our community. And Father Carter, my board chair at the time, stated that you need to become an attorney. And I said, Father, I have 3 kids right now. I don't know how I can do this. He said, I dare you. You challenge everyone else to be the best that they can be. I want you to do the same. And so I went to law school, went there at night while I worked during the day. And one person in my life who I always talk to about doing changes, making changes with the criminal justice system, said to me, you never need to run for office because you're too direct and you're too honest. And then he called me a week before qualifying to say, you need to run. And I think what I would bring to that bench is that integrity of and the honesty, and letting people see me be an impartial but fair to everyone that comes before the bench.
Okay. Next question. what do you believe is the most pressing issue facing our criminal courts today?
I think the most pressing issue, I think, is the time delay with a lot of people who have a constitutional right to a quick and fair trial. And I think because of scheduling, the DA or the defense attorney or the judge themselves, I think the scheduling may be off. And I think because of that, the docket is not running smoothly, and people are sitting, waiting to be heard, their case, their trial to begin, and that type of thing. And what I would bring to the bench is I would be present. I would make certain that I have an orderly schedule that I would give to the defense attorney as well as the prosecution to say, here, way out front, to say, here is the timelines and these must be met. I think it starts with me. I have to be prepared and I have to be present.
Thank you. Next question. What sets you apart from your opponent in this runoff? And what differences do the voters need to understand about these differences?
I think what sets me apart from my opponent is the fact that I have always been a community servant. I served on several boards, including Algiers Charter School System Board, as well as Common Ground. I have community service is embedded in me, I think I should state. And because of that, I know the community. I know the people that live in the community. I've worked with politicians. I've worked with faith leaders. I work with community leaders. And plus I have not only criminal law experience, but I have civil law experience as well. And I think sometimes those two, a criminal law case may have somewhat of a civil, matter that goes hand in hand. And because I know it, I know how I would be able to deal with those particular issues. I think my experience within the law as well as in the community sets me apart from my opponent. And I think I would be the best choice to serve as judge for Criminal District Court Section K.
Thank you. Next question. What do you think is the single most important duty that the criminal court should fulfill for our city? I
think the most important duty that the criminal court should fill, I think there's two components with that. Most of the I'm going to say defendants that come into court, I want to let them know and educate them that the system is impartial, that justice is blind, that they will have a fair trial, given, as far as I'm concerned as judge. I want to educate them on the proceedings so that they will not feel like they're not a part or they're being looked at differently, that type of thing. And the second thing, I think, second prong to that is, I think as a community person, it is imperative that we let the community know, yes, we're going to be impartial and fair, but for me as a mother of 4 young men, I need them to know that I believe in the safety of our community for everyone involved. Because as a mother, when they leave those doors, I'm concerned, are they going to be turning back? Will they be safe to go out there? And so I know what all parents are concerned about that. And so I want to make certain that as a judge, as judge of Criminal District Court Section K, I want to make certain that our city remains safe.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What is your vision for the future of the criminal court in New Orleans? What changes, if any, would you advocate and why? And in addition, because I think you've already talked about some changes, what changes in addition to what you've already described?
Well, I know that a lot of people have some concerns about our bail system. Is it fair in that the bail system is supposed to be used not as a punitive measure, but as a measure to ensure that defendants show up for trial. And so I want to look at the bail system, what we can do to make certain that each defendant is afforded an opportunity to, have bail.
Okay. Now, we're just about out of time,
Okay.
but with the few seconds we have remaining, how about you tell our viewers, your ballot number, and where they can find more information about you online.
My name again is Stephanie Bridges. I'm a candidate for Judge of Criminal District Court, Section K. My ballot number is 93, and for more information, you can go to stephaniebridges4judge.com.
Very good. So thank you so much for spending this time with us and giving the viewers more information about you so they can make a more informed decision at the polls. It's great to get to know you, and good luck to you on December the 5th.
Thank you so much, and again, thank you for having me.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll be right back after this short break. Thank you all for joining us for this election special edition of John Redmann Power of Attorney. We hope by meeting the candidates for these races, you got a good idea of what they stood for and who you should vote for. We want to especially thank the candidates Keva Landrum and Jason Williams, candidates for Orleans District Attorney, and candidates Marcus DeLarge and Stephanie Bridges, candidates for Criminal District Court Division K in Orleans Parish. Remember to keep updated through your local news and online resources as to the current COVID guidelines for voting as your designated ballot station and as to mail-in voting practices. Remember, you can view this show again and previous shows on YouTube or at johnredmannpoa.com. Be on the lookout for more special election episodes of John Redmann Power of Attorney, as well as other episodes of our show on all different sorts of legal matters, including landlord-tenant, criminal law, family law, all kinds of excellent experts, legal representatives from Congress. Just check it out on our website. Stay safe and get out there and vote. Remember, it's December 5th, 2020 for that runoff. My name is John Redmann, and I look forward to seeing you next time.